Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome again for those that are just joining us. We're just asking folks to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and your organization. And we're actually going to go ahead and launch the first poll as I keep admitting folks joining us. And I'm going to introduce myself. So here's the first poll of the day. So my name is Yarrow. I work at New Jersey Citizen Action. I help convene the New Jersey Time to Care Coalition, which is a coalition of a range of different organizations advocating so that workers can be able to take time off to care for their own health, care for their loved ones, and bond with new children. That's our primary focus at the Time to Care Coalition. I wanted to just also let you know, as folks are still entering, introducing themselves in the chat, we are doing this meeting style, so please do mute yourself, and we're going to do breakout groups in a little bit. So I want to also let you know that Fatmata is our paid leave organizer. She's going to be helping behind the scenes today. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. You can also do the feature where you raise your hand so that we can see you have a question. And we're going to have a discussion as well, so there'll be opportunities for you to weigh in. All right, so please continue to introduce yourself in the chat and answer the first poll. Fatmata, you can go to the next slide. It's possible that I will be visually freezing, but the good news is that my audio is not on my computer. Yes, I need a new computer. Fear not, I am connected via joining where we are in our poll. Let me do the results here in 1 minute. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone, for getting on. We actually already have 52 folks on the call this morning. Let's see if I can share this poll. All right. Can you see that? We have HR as our top answer. So a lot of you are here today from a business perspective, right? Some of you from a small business perspective. The next answer is you're part of a community organization. So maybe working at a nonprofit, providing some sort of services for the public, for your communities. And then we have some government agency folks and worker rights individuals. And then some people are just here as an individual personal and not necessarily affiliated with anyone. So yeah, I hope you can see that. Wanted to just give you a sense that we do really have a diverse group of folks here today. So just be aware of that. When we go into breakout groups, we aren't going to be organized by our perspective. We're going to be sort of in a mixed group. So just so you know, we all have our own unique perspectives on this issue. So, all right, I am going to actually go to the next poll. Our poll number 2. So this is just for fun. If your age is based on your state of mind, how old do you think you are today? I thought this was kind of funny. How is everyone feeling out there? Are you a little tired? Sleepy newborn? A three-nager, like my three-nager? Feeling argumentative? What's her favorite phrase? I don't care. That's what she says to me every day. I don't care. All right. How you guys feeling this morning? Give you a minute to answer that. All right. I'll end the poll here in just 1 sec. All right, everybody participated? How are we feeling this morning? All right. So let's see the results. Oh, a lot of crazy midlifers. This isn't supposed to be who you are. It's just how you feel, your state of mind. I'm kidding. So yes, of course, being in midlife can make you feel a little crazy, especially if you're in the sandwich generation and you're caring for young children, aging parents. So a lot of you are out there feeling a little crazy in midlife. Some of you feel like melodramatic teenagers, and good, we have some fun grandparents. So it does get better is what you're saying. All right, good. All right, that's just for fun. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I do want to go ahead and just share with you the plan for our agenda today. So this is our second meeting of the New Jersey Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the collaborative is, what we discussed at our last meeting. We're going to then jump into viewing a short video, some really great interview. You'll see some of the conversation there around paid leave and its importance for specifically fathers. And then we're going to invite our guest speaker to share some of what his thoughts are on the whole person workplace and more. And then we're going to do really short breakout groups. So I just want to go ahead and put it out there. A lot of times on Zoom calls, you know, we're just watching, and we do want to have an opportunity for everyone to participate and share their thoughts. So we're going to do that. It's not going to be too long. And then we're going to look at what some of the materials the Department of Labor has for us. So they're going to review some of those and how you can access materials either in print or online. And then we're going to look at some new research coming out of the Center for Women in Work around implementation of paid leave here in New Jersey. And sorry if anyone's viewing me, I am freezing a little bit, but I'm glad you can at least hear me okay, right? Okay. So that's our agenda today. We can go to the next slide. I'm actually going to do one more poll before we get into it. So just to get a sense of who's on the call today, if you were able to attend the launch of the New Jersey Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative, which we held back in, I believe, June 15th. So we can have a better sense of who was able to be part of that. Either you were there or you weren't able to attend, or maybe you actually got the recording or saw some of the recording. All right, I'll give it another minute. All right, this is our last poll of the day. As much as I love polls, we're only going to do 3 this morning. All right, so it looks like, here, let me share the results with you. Anyone else want to answer that? All right. Yeah, so we have majority of folks were not part of our launch collaborative meeting, but some of you were, and some of you caught the recording. So that's great, good to know. So we're gonna go over a little bit of what we did at the launch. Give me one sec. And Samana, if you could go to the next slide. I do have this debrief link for those of you that were on. I think about 11 or 12 of you were part, and maybe those of you that caught the recording, you could get this link. I don't know if Amara, you could put that in the chat for folks. And it's just a quick kind of questionnaire asking people what their takeaways were from that meeting so that we could then use that in our development of our upcoming meetings. So what we did back in June, and when you have a second, Fatmata, you could go to the next slide. Oh, you're already there. Okay, so this is the recording for those of you that weren't able to join us. If you have time, you want to kind of go through what we discussed you're more than welcome to view this recording. And then if you go to the one before this slide, I know the slides are a little tricky. Yeah, and then this is another link, and I'll share these with you after our call today. And if Famata, if she has the ability, or if I can, I'll put them in the chat too. Sorry, it's a lot, I know. So one of the big things that we did at our launch is we did what we called a paid leave primer presentation. And so this was a presentation where we really shared what New Jersey's paid leave program is, what it consists of, who's eligible, how you can access it. We talked about also, the difference between the paid leave program as well as job protection, which is a point of confusion for a lot of folks. And I wanted to make sure everybody had those slides because let me see if I can get that link for you. It really gets us on the same page about what we're talking about when it comes to paid leave in New Jersey, because our main focus at the collaborative here is trying to increase awareness, understanding, and access to paid leave in New Jersey. And New Jersey is one of just a handful of states that actually has a paid leave program. So this is a really important component of what we're trying to do, is just educating ourselves, educating others, and making sure it's clear what we mean when we talk about paid leave. So if you could go to the next slide, Satmana, that would be great. And I did just put in the chat the link to the paid leave primer slides so that you should be able to view those. And one thing that we'll talk about in a little bit is we do have the ability to set up trainings, train the trainer workshops, really going over paid leave in New Jersey for whatever audience you invite us to speak at. So, okay, next slide. What is the New Jersey Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative? So this is a new collaborative where we are bringing together a diverse group of organizations, participants, to talk about this very important issue of paid leave and how we can, as I said before, increase workers and employers' awareness and understanding of paid leave in Jersey, so that all workers can access paid time off when they need it the most. So it's really just us trying to think about what are some of the barriers, what are some of the reasons that we can think about that people are not able to take time off. And one of the biggest points of confusion is simply just that people don't understand what the program is. So that's what we were hoping to accomplish on our launch meeting that we held in June. But it's something that I think is an ongoing learning process, and we'll keep doing trainings about what the New Jersey Paid Leave program is. So the collaborative, if you can go to the next slide, Fatmata, that would be great. So we are trying to bring together folks from organizations, as I said before, a diverse range of different types of organizations. And we're going to just really start to tackle this question together about why it is that people just don't know or aren't accessing leave. And there's different ways that we can do this: planning outreach together, looking at research, really trying to evaluate what the reasons are in terms of limited understanding and awareness, and just other ways that we can coordinate our efforts together, opportunities to engage the public, lifting up our own work that we're doing in terms of outreach and education, and brainstorming how we can tackle this issue. So today, this is just sort of an overview of what we discussed at our launch meeting about how we're going to tackle this question, access to paid leave. You can go to the next slide. So today, really, the thing that we're going to do in just a minute when we watch this video is we're going to talk about culture. So, when workers are eligible for paid leave, they just don't always take it. And one of the issues preventing them from taking leave is this notion really of culture. And this can mean a whole range of things, from workplace culture, and you may have great policies at your workplace, but there's things that maybe you're not even aware of that are actually making your policies, your access, folks' access to taking time off, really not accessible. And that can be partly things that are happening in the workplace, but also our culture at large and perceptions that we have about, what it means to take time off of work. There is this idea of a worker norm, really being committed to the job and prioritizing the job over all else. And when we aren't prioritizing work, there's something that we're indicating, maybe we're not as invested in the workplace. But other workplaces may have really strong workplace cultures where they've really demonstrated the value of taking time for oneself and one's family. So, the U.S. is unique, of course, because we're one of the only countries in the world that doesn't have a paid leave guarantee. And so there is something to be said for our own, United States culture in terms of work and taking time off. So one of the things that we're going to do to kick off this conversation, if you want to go ahead, Famara, and share your screen with the video. I don't know if it's a little tricky to change the screen share, is we're going to just watch this quick video. This is a Texas representative who, was, I believe, the first father to take time off from his job, as a congressperson when he had a new child. So I think if you change your share from that screen to your other screen, yeah, it might take a minute to figure that out. Yeah, it's all right. There we go. Hopefully everyone can hear this. I think you need to unmute, Samana.
With Mother's Day coming up this weekend, there is a renewed push in Washington to give new parents maybe the best present of all, more time to bond with their babies. But here's the thing, paid time off for dads in particular is available at just 9% of companies in this country. And even when dads can take time off, many don't feel they should, and most take 2 weeks or less. We spoke with Texas Democrat Colin Allred. He's a former NFL linebacker turned U.S. congressman who has now twice taken time off to be a dad in Dallas. As both of us cared for our newborns at home, he explained to me how he's hoping to extend the very same opportunity to everyone.
This is a whole new meaning to politicians kissing babies.
As parents like Colin Allred will tell you, babies are a full-time job. Oh.
A little spit up.
A little spit up. Which is why in 2019, Allred took 2 weeks off from Washington to be home with his newborn son, Jordan. And believe it or not, it was the first paternity leave ever announced by a member of Congress.
It was really important to me. I mean, I grew up without a father. My whole life I thought, when I have a chance to be a father, I'm going to be a good dad and I'm going to be there. And I think in our household, my wife and I try to keep things as equal as possible. And this was part of that.
Oh. Earlier this year, when Allred's wife, Allie, gave birth to their second child, Cameron, he took another leave, this time for a month. What gave you the confidence to go a little further?
2 weeks wasn't long enough with the first one. For my wife, for me, for our son, Jordan, I really felt like I needed longer.
The truth is, most dads get less time than that, despite research showing that paternity leave is tied to improved health and development in children, and by fostering equality, can actually increase employment and pay for mothers. Men, even when they have the chance to take paternity leave, they do not always take it. What's your theory behind it? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, there's an expectation in the workplace that you didn't have the baby, so what do you need the time off for, right? And there's also, of course, kind of the cultural expectation in many cases that the mom is going to, do all of the child care. And of course, what we've seen, he's going to sleep. What we've seen is that,
Introducing Skechers Go Walk pants, made with the cotton soft feel of Skechers Go Flex fabric. These full-length four-way stretch pants are breathable, have a double-layer mid-rise waistband, and 4 exterior.
Oh, we have a commercial. It's okay. It'll be done in a second.
To fit every body.
Look at that.
That was pretty good.
It's a veteran.
Women are being asked to do all the child care, all the housework, and still be in the workforce. And that's just not working.
The United States is, as you've probably heard before, one of just 2 countries, along with Papua New Guinea, that does not guarantee paid parental leave to anyone.
And they need to strengthen paid leave.
Let's support working families by supporting
Paid family leave.
Paid leave makes a real difference to ordinary people's lives.
I can't think of another issue that both former President Obama and President Trump and now Joe Biden all have mentioned in major speeches, including the State of the Union, and yet it doesn't get done.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things I think makes people so frustrated with Washington in general, is that you can have a lot of agreement around something, but still it's very difficult to get anything done and to get it through and to become law.
President Biden has proposed giving workers 12 weeks of paid leave under his American Families Plan. But that would cost about $225 billion. And while Democrats want to raise taxes on the wealthy in order to pay for it, Republicans do not.
Whether or not it can be bipartisan, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But I know that we're going to get it done either way. That was both ends.
He doesn't like reconciliation. He's not a fan.
Yeah, we got a diaper. It's got to be changed here.
That was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
so amazing.
It was difficult to maintain a train of thought while caring for our newborns. I think baby Cameron's reaction there at the end as a stand-in for much of the country, where it's like, look, bipartisan support for this. Like, let's get it done. Figure out a way to pay for it.
It is miraculous, as you point out, given the fact that both sides, are speaking out about it and in favor of it, that they can't get this done.
Yeah.
Well, at the beginning of the piece, you said he was the first man to take parental leave, and it was in 2019. I had to double check the script because I was like, that cannot be.
No, it's true. And there's no official leave for anyone in Congress, and people have presumed to have snuck in some days here and there. But it's a big deal for a man, a father, to come forward and say, I'm doing this. It's important. It's for my family. And actually, I've noticed since my oldest son, who's going to be 12 this summer, was born, to now with Eloise, the pressure has shifted. It's not go back to work. It's why aren't you home? And on that point, I will be taking additional leave in July.
There you go.
Join me while you have me.
Is that the first interview where you ever used a baby bottle to
gesture?
Yes, to make it.
I found it very
effective.
Very effective. I'm going to keep it on the work belt.
That was very powerful.
All right, that was great, Tony.
All right, thanks for that. So it's a great short clip, I think, to get us thinking about this question of let me see. Okay. But Mana will pull up the slides again when she has sec. But yes, I mean, really, the question of culture.
I'm so sorry. You don't
is really closely.
You don't see the slides?
What's that?
You don't see the slides?
We do now. Yeah.
Okay.
We do now. Yeah. The question of culture and leave taking, I mean, it is very closely related to expectations and gender norms, right? And so that's something that maybe we can talk about in our breakout groups. But I want to go ahead and actually introduce Amy Vasquez. Amy is the director of legal content at the Employers Association of New Jersey, and they've been, a great participant, invited a lot of you folks today to this event. So I want to introduce Amy. Amy?
Thanks, Yarrow. It is so great to be here with all of you today. I love the fantastic turnout that we have. I see a lot of familiar EANJ names on the line, so welcome to you all. And I am thrilled today to have the opportunity to introduce you to our guest speaker, Scott Beeson. Scott and I had met a few years back when I was moderating a panel on New Jersey's expanded family leave, and he was one of our featured panelists. That was back when events were still live and in person. Kind of seems like it was a lifetime ago. Maybe we'll get there again, we'll see. Scott is a national expert in work and family issues, a professor of management and Silberman Global Faculty Fellow at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and a best-selling author. His most recent book was just published in August. It's called The Whole Person Workplace: Building a Better Workplace Through Work-Life, Wellness, and Employee Support. I have my copy here. I had the pleasure of reading this over the summer. I read it on the beach. It's that good. It's a fantastic read. It is timely. It is practical. I think that you'll find it kind of serves as a guidebook, really, on how leaders can create positive changes within the workplace so that they can better support employees. So welcome to you, Scott. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for that very nice introduction. So, yeah, so Yarrow and asked me to come here today to talk a little bit about how parental leave fits into what I'm calling, and based on my work and everything, calling a whole person workplace. And this this book, which I'm very proud of, and thank you, Amy, for the nice endorsement, really talks about how employees can value, employers can value their employees. And, some employers look at their employees as like part of the machine and, just keep the chain moving. But I think the most powerful and the best organizations, the most resilient organizations, and the ones who've been getting through the last 18 months better are the ones that have valued their employees, not just between 9 and 5, and not just the parts of them that are at the workplace, but really value them as whole people with lives and responsibilities, challenges and stressors, and full lives and other things to do outside of work. And if you really think about it, right, one of the things in the last 18 months that has become crystal clear, I think most of us probably already knew this, but it became crystal clear to employers around the country, was that the separation between like work is work and then keep everything else separate from work really has never really been true, and it certainly hasn't been over the last 18 months, right? Where the fact is, it's been a very hard 18 months, and we've gotten a window into our coworkers' lives and our employees' lives, right? We see their living rooms and their cats and their children and everything else that's going on, and it's been hard, right? And a lot of us, some people have done very well with work from home. Other people, this has been incredibly stressful and anxiety producing, and has not been great for. But I think the connection between how well someone is feeling in their lives and how much they feel like they could rise to the challenges that they're facing in their lives really impacts work, right? I mean, how could you do really well at work if you're worried about, childcare, or if you're worried about, financial instability, or you're worried about, your physical or mental health and well-being? And so a lot of my work has been with employers and talking to tons of employers about how are they trying to take care of the whole people, the human beings who work for them. And I think parental leave is a big part of this. So if you think about, one of the major principles in my work is, if we value employees as whole human beings, then this expands a little bit of the level of responsibility employers, HR professionals, managers, and leaders can extend to their employees. And it makes life maybe a little more complicated, and maybe some of these things cost a little bit of money, but not always. If we expand that responsibility, then we're going to create a great culture where people can really be themselves, where people can get the resources and time that they need to rise to their work-life challenges. So parental leave really fits in here. I don't know how many of you are parents. I suspect most of us are. The first couple months are really, really hard, right? And they're hard for lots of different reasons. And, sleep deprivation being one of them, but lots of other things too. But having the stability behind you, right? The feeling of support behind you that, yes, my employer cares about me enough that they are providing me this period of time to transition into parenthood with this child. And especially for both genders, as they said in the video, I think it's true, when, parental leave is not extended to men, or there's barriers for men, culturally and expectations wise from taking parental leaves, then the mom becomes the default parent. The dad becomes like the helper or whatever. And that sets up family dynamics that most families probably don't want. Most families probably go into getting married these days and having children these days with, we want things to be relatively equal. We value each other's careers, etc. But the dynamics of uneven leave kind of sets people up into dynamics that don't go along with that, and that burdens women so that it impacts their careers. And frankly, it cuts men off, because if the mom winds up curtailing her career, The dad often has to push forward in his career to make up that money. And then, he's being locked out really of some of the joys and, all the other benefits of being an involved father. So, it's really not good for anybody. So parental leave is a big part of a whole person workplace. Now, thankfully in New Jersey, there's a plan in place that provides a floor, right? So even if an employer is not providing, a more extensive paid parental leave, at least there's a floor in New Jersey for that. Now, I know this is part of why we're here, right? Is that not so many people know about or take this state level program. But I think for us here who are HR professionals, one, we got to make sure that we're providing a substantial parental leave to both moms and dads, to both birth parents and adoptive parents. There's all different types of families. We need to support all of them. And we need to understand the state plan, but we also need to, I think we can go above and beyond in many cases. And it's not just offering the leave, right? It's what Yarrow was talking about, the culture behind it. And there's lots of things we could do to support the culture behind it. So, first thing is, the good thing about parental leave from an employer standpoint is you have notice ahead of time, right? It's unlike some other types of leave, right? There where you can get many months of notice. And if you do that, right, then it's like, well, let's use this time. Let's use this time to figure out how our work team is going to operate. Do we need to roll off some responsibilities to other people? Do we need to have a junior employee step up and start developing them so they can fill in for some of these things? Do we need to hire a temp? We have time to build in some of those if we have those good conversations about it. So, and one of the things that human resources professionals really can do is help coach managers, leaders, maybe create templates for these conversations about if someone is an expectant parent and they want to start talking about parental leave. The managers and leaders need to know what the policies are. They don't always know that, and HR professionals can really help with that. And secondly, they need to, maybe help guide some of these conversations about, okay, great. So in, what is it? September now. Okay, you're going to be on leave in November. Okay, what do we need to do between now and then, right? And it shouldn't be an emergency either. Like, people have babies. And I think that many organizations treat every situation like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I talked to, in writing the book, I talked to the person who's the head of work-life initiatives at Microsoft. And she complains about that. She said for a long time, we were always like, every maternity leave or paternity leave is like a whole new thing. It's like, no, we have 8 babies a day at Microsoft. Like, we should have a system for this, right? We should build a structure around this. I think any organization of size should be able to do that. And the human resources professionals are the people who really need to hold that, because, for the employee, this might be their first kid, so they don't know what to expect. For the manager or supervisor, this might be the second or third time they've gone through this process. But us in the HR department, we probably had dozens of cases of this. So we should really know how to handle this going forward. So it's not just preparation, though. It's also the support for it. And other things like the transition back to work. Now, I think now that we see that work can be done in different ways and in different places and different times, we can leverage that. So it's, even if you've returned most of your workers to the workplace already, someone coming back from parental leave, maybe, they're working from home 4 days a week to start, then to 3, and then transition back, or some sort of, stepping up their schedules over a period of time. Because going from 0 to 60 and then, all the way back, that's a hard transition. So gradual return is usually something that, that I'd recommend too, that creates, again, if you add all this up, right, a good amount of parental leave, a good plan in transition so that coworkers are not overburdened and resentful, and a good return policy so that people can ease their transition back in a time where it's got to be really stressful. I'm bringing my kids to daycare for the first time. Oh my God, I remember that. It's heartbreaking, right? If an employer can help relieve some of that stress, right? Relieve some of that burden, take that off the employee by supporting them with policy and with things around the policy that build a culture of care, then we build a workplace where people are going to stay, where people feel grateful for working there, where people then start taking care of each other. And so I think that's really, really important. And parental leave is one great example of that. Again, if you have to get back to work in a week after having a baby, I don't know how, frankly, a woman could do that at giving birth. It's hard enough for guys. But if there's many weeks of leave that allow for a family to be a family and to learn how to become a family together, with support beforehand and support afterwards, that. Think about, from an employer's point of view, one, you could feel really good about how you're supporting your employees through this and that you're doing the right thing for the human beings who work for you. But secondly, from a hard numbers business point of view, women in their first year of motherhood are a huge turnover risk, right? We could reduce that greatly. We can make it that people can feel like they can have a career at this organization and have it fit with their lives. And if not, we're seeing with the Great Reset and the Great Resignation, a lot of employees are considering, what kind of employer do I want to work for now that there's a little more choice, especially for talented individuals, to look around for different employers and employees, and that many employers are experimenting with all different ways of working. So it's not just parental leave, and it's, a whole person workplace supports everybody, not just working parents and not just new parents. So this means your culture of care is not just the parental leave, but that's one part of the whole, right? So then it's maybe support for things like childcare. Then maybe it's things like wellness programs and physical and mental health and safety and physical and psychological safety in the workplace. It's things like, even supporting people's desires for professional development, for volunteering, giving back to their communities, doing, donation matching, giving people paid time off for volunteer work. It can be a wide range of things. You could have a 23-year-old who just got out of college and feels weighed down by student debt. Many organizations are doing things about that. You have people in the, Giaro mentioned this sandwich generation. In the book, actually, someone I talked to calls it the panini generation. So it's the sandwich generation, but much more heat and pressure. And I think that's where a lot of us are. But if you knew that you had the flexibility and the time and maybe some help dealing with an aging parent or something like that, how much stress would you be releasing, right, from that individual? So if we could build a workplace that takes a little more care and values its employees as whole people, not just as a part of the machine, I think it's really, really, really important. So, what I really dove into over the last 2 years, I talked to about 50 different organizations, some in New Jersey, but ranging from large multinationals. I talked to Adidas and BSF and Microsoft, and also to like literally a food store with 8 employees in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and everything in between. I talked to a small furniture manufacturer, blue collar jobs, part-time, types of workplaces as well. And there are ways to express that we value our employees as whole people in all different ways. And it can be small changes that cost nothing. Like one company found that their working parents were stressed out about having to get to the 9 a.m. all hands meetings that they had. They moved it to 10, just made the drop off and transition easier, right? And that cost nothing. And then there's organizations that, Adidas, when they opened a new facility in one city, they were transferring employees from their other locations. They lined up, and it was happened. It was in like the early summer when this transition was happening. They just bought up all these slots at summer camps for these families that were moving to a new area. One less thing they had to worry about when they made this transition, moving to a new area and leaving their family network or their family care network. So that, if we're creative about it, we think about it. There's so many different ways we do it. Working from home, allowing work from home, even on an ad hoc basis, can really, really help, just giving people time for life. But paid leave and paid family leave, I think is a big part of that solution. I don't know what else Yara might want me to talk.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I think it's great how you also started just making it clear. I think that paid leave is a really important piece for new parents in terms of just kind of helping gender equality along. We often don't think like a small sliver of time off can have a real long-term effect on not only the household gender equality, but our overall societal equality. But I'm just wondering if you have any final thoughts kind of about, you know, how public policy can influence culture for those of us not in an HR role. Like, what hope do we have, you know, in terms of trying to shift our culture?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's the broadest level, right? So we have spheres that we can control more easily, right? If we are a HR director, you know, we can have a big part to play in the culture of that workplace, right? Or for a manager or supervisor. It gets harder when it's public policy, right? Because it's a big country. You know, I think there's movement now, and you all probably follow the news, right? About you know, paid leave, probably, you know, being in the big reconciliation bill. I hope, from what I'm hearing, the federal, at least the current plan at the federal level is different than the New Jersey model, and a lot of the state models. And I hope the state models prevail, because I think funding it through a leave insurance program makes a lot of sense, because it provides less of a burden to employers financially in this type of approach. But yeah, I mean, we need to raise our voices. We need to vote. We need to support candidates who support these things. You know, I know that there was a big push recently from I saw it all over my Twitter feed and Facebook feed, and I fed that as well. You know, like really trying to advocate for parental leave, but you know, it goes, you know, it's hard at our country's level, because you know, it is a big diverse country and not everybody agrees with this type of thing. But you know, we keep pushing along, right? It's good that we pushed along. We were the second state in the country to have paid parental leave. That's because of advocacy. And now there's what, 8 or so or states that have programs like this. So you know, that's advocacy that's helped bring that along. And you know, for those who work in private organizations, advocate within your sphere of influence. So if you can make your organization a little better around parental leave, please do. I don't know how many guys there are in our audience today, but you know, maybe we'll talk about that at some other point. You know, if you could be the person who takes a long parental leave as a father, you can really help, you know, maybe help change that culture for the next guy and the next guy down the road. If you're a manager or supervisor, if you really, you're not just like, oh, you're going to leave me for 8 weeks, what am I going to do? But you're like, wow, this is wonderful. How can we support you through this? And we'll get you back, and we'll be all, you know, it'll be fantastic. You know, if you can have that attitude in your private organization, that's great. But I don't know, I'm not a public policy expert. I try to do my part in speaking up and supporting candidates who support the things I support, but I don't know, I'll leave that to some of the public policy people.
No, thanks, Scott. I didn't mean to put you on the spot to talk about like what's happening. I just think interesting that we often, you know, there's a lot of different ways of going at this, right? And I think we forget like how public policy can actually affect who is feeling comfortable taking leave, right? Because if it's something that's available to everybody, you know, maybe you've had it at your company for years, but now it becomes available to everybody in your state or wherever you are. It's like, oh wait, this is something that is your right in a sense, and this is what we've seen in other countries as well.
You know, so it's interesting. So my first book several years ago was a book for working dads, called The Working Dad Survival Guide, trying to help advice and encouragement for fathers trying to balance work and family. And when I talked to people, it was like a lot of dads were already doing a lot of this stuff, right? Or were really involved with their families or taking leave and things like that. But no one ever talked about it. So people didn't know others were doing it. So maybe that's one thing we could do, is just kind of share our stories more. It's funny, even my colleagues at work, these like 65, 70-year-old men would come and say, I don't know if you know this, but I wound up taking a month off when my children were born, but I couldn't tell anybody. I just
It was
pretended.
a secret, right? Yeah.
And it's like, but now they're saying, well, my son-in-law, who's like your age, he unabashedly, or he's the one who's staying home, and his wife is continuing her career, and so it changes. But I mean, maybe that's one thing that we could do is kind of share the fact that so many more of us are doing this than perhaps is recognized by our culture and society.
That's great. Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure everybody had the links to get your book. It is great. I also have it, and I also read some of it at the beach. So, but even if you're not going to be at the beach anytime soon, it is a great book you can pick up and read different sections. So, definitely recommend that. And it is, I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's not just for HR folks. I really think it's great for a lot of people thinking about this issue, but go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And I would just say, putting out there to my friends at New Jersey organizations, if you want to have conversations about the topics in the book or anything like that, read the book and then reach out to me. I'm very accessible, and I'm happy to talk to workplaces or organizations and things like that.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being available. Yeah. So we're actually a little behind, but we're going to go ahead and actually do breakout groups. And maybe, in the breakout groups, you all can share some of your takeaways. But we do actually have a few prepared questions for you all to think about. And so I'm going to try to do this in a way that doesn't take forever, because I am not an expert at this. So give me 1 minute, and we're going to be in our breakout groups. So you can go ahead and read these questions and start thinking about what your answers might be as I do this. Hold on. Sorry, we're going to start in 1 minute. All right. Sorry, it's taking me a minute. Just 1 second. I don't know, this cursor doesn't like me today.
Hi, Yarrow. Is it just two of us?
No, I'm just having a little bit of trouble here. Give me
outlets where there's high turnover and a lot of workload that has to be managed when people leave. So I think folks talked about some of the unique issues that small businesses have. But we also talked about some of the advantages that paid family leave provides, which is that it allows small businesses to provide this benefit, which otherwise they might not be able to do because it's funded through the state. So it allows them to be competitive with larger businesses, which can offer, corporate paid leave policies. And I think that, just to borrow what someone else is talking about, the Department of Labor does have, new tools available on their website and is working on additional resources for businesses to make sure that that information does get out.
Awesome. Group 4, Calandria.
Thank you. Sasha will give our takeaways. Thank you, Sasha. Sorry, Tasha.
It's okay. So we had a great group. The major takeaway in our group was to market leave as and paid leave as a benefit instead of a takeaway. A lot of times employees tend to look at it as a takeaway instead of a benefit. And if it's included as a benefit, then they look at it as a perk. And also a lot of times with a lot of HR departments, the challenges are receiving the paperwork. A lot of times employees will be already out and then they'll contact HR and say, oh, you know what, I'm currently in the hospital. I, had to have surgery. It was scheduled and now they need to process the leave. So that's some of the challenges that HR professionals face. So those were some of the things that we discussed in our group.
That's great. Thank you. And we're going to keep having these conversations. So thanks so much. And then I want to see a group 5, Deborah.
Yeah, I think we'll just add a couple of things that hopefully weren't said before, but just the real need to normalize leave taking in the culture. And part of that we discuss is developing, more of a shared understanding about the benefits, that it's not, maternity leave, paternity leave is not a vacation, that there's some real work going on there that benefits individuals, families, culture, society, workplaces. And that also just making it seem less like a secret. I think some folks just still felt like, it just is like one of the best kept secrets that we have in New Jersey. And yeah, so that's it. I'll stop there. Thanks, Yara.
Okay, thanks. And then the group 6, Nicole, that was your group, I think, yeah.
Yes, so we pretty much had similar feedback as other groups. I would say maybe the one thing that we would add is because of the turnaround time and that kind of gap in when somebody's filing for benefits and actually receiving them certainly leaves a lot of low income families, unable to manage that gap and therefore not be able to take leave. And certainly for immigrant, particularly undocumented employees who may be fearful not only of taking leave, but that they may not have a job as a result of even just requesting that leave. So that's what we would add.
Okay, thank you. And group 7, I think that's Lauren.
Yes, thanks, Yarrow. We had challenges as whether or not it's paid, the stigma, job protections, and lack of awareness, and how to address how can employers assist, like even filling out forms, that kind of thing. And I was lucky we had Holly on ours who posted the Department of Labor website and also a toolkit on for employers. And we had questions on FMLA versus New Jersey, and she posted, I saved the chat, you'll get it all in my notes. And then finally, the whole person approach, it's not just working parents, it's, you need to be flexible and address the challenges of all employees. And some employers don't realize the difference between short-term disability versus leave and that you could do both. The FMLA site is very confusing, and Holly shared another link on a new parent thing that's coming out from the Department of Labor. And then finally, HR supports the entire organization as a whole, not just parts. And that was it.
All right. Thanks so much. We will compile these notes and see, what we can share with folks that's helpful, and going to keep the conversation going. Thanks for everybody who was facilitating those groups, and sorry for the delay. I do want to go ahead and bring on Rebecca Glynn from the New Jersey Department of Labor. She's going to go over some of the materials. The great thing is that the Department of Labor, as some of you have already mentioned, they're coming up with new materials and different ways of communicating information all the time. And they do organize it by kind of perspectives. What are you thinking about? Are you talking about an aging parent that you need to take time for your own health, for a new child? So Rebecca, if you would, we don't have a lot of time. We might go over a little bit, and I do apologize for that. But if you could share with us some of the materials that you all have.
Absolutely. And you can see the screen. Can you see? Okay, great.
Yes, yes.
So I'll be really quick. The main thing you can remember is my email address, rebecca.glynn@dol.nj.gov. Holly and Jill, my colleagues from the department, are in the room and maybe can share some links in my email. I'm always happy to connect with you and kind of walk through these resources with you separately if you need more time. So this is our main webpage for paid leave benefits, myleavebenefits.nj.gov. Like Yarrow said, we divide it by role, so information for workers, employers, and healthcare providers. And then under workers, we also have it divided by need. So if you're sick, if you're caring for someone, bonding, if you're a victim of domestic or sexual violence, we have all these resources. And we also, even though we don't administer job protection, we have resources linking you to the resources on job protection. You can find all our printable handouts under information for workers and helpful resources. There's a printable handouts icon, but again, I'm happy to send you the links to them. So if you can't remember how to get there, that's fine. I won't show you all our handouts today, but I'll show you a few of them. If you are interested in sharing resources, but printing them is the barrier, I'm always happy to, at the department, we can print them and mail them to you. So please don't let that be the barrier. Just to give you an idea of what we have this half-page document in English and Spanish, just an overview of our programs. And then we also have handouts that are like front and back that go into more detail for each use of leave. But this is our overview that we think is really helpful to get people to understand what paid leave is. And then, like I said, we have more detailed handouts as well. One of them is, one of the handouts we have and was mentioned is this new parent handout. And this sort of breaks down how cash benefits align with job protection. And we know that that's very confusing for families. So we think this one's really helpful. And you can find this on our website under like the maternity section. And we can print this out for you. So it's in like it's on one page, front and back. But this kind of really goes into a lot of detail of everything someone would need to know if they were, pregnant or seeking to take leave. I also wanted to emphasize our employer toolkit, which was mentioned. It is new. We're really excited about it. You can find it under information for employers and employer toolkit on our website. This has a short clip about our short video about our benefit programs. It has our printable handout for employers. It's where you can download our slideshow on geared towards employers on these benefits. We do give presentations to employers and other service providers. So if that's something you're interested in, we're always happy to connect with you. On this toolkit, there's also a list of resources you can share with your employees, such as handouts for temporary disability and family leave insurance. Really quickly, I just wanted to plug that we do have a website called mysickdays.nj.gov. This isn't temporary disability and family leave insurance. This is your right to paid sick time paid by the employer. And we have some handouts here geared towards workers, parents, a handout geared towards employers on the right to take sick leave to get the vaccine. So we're really happy with this, and we can mail you these as well. And the last thing I'll show you is myworkrights.nj.gov. This is a really comprehensive landing page that connects you with all sorts of things, including different worker rights, resources on COVID-19 specifically, and then also some key resources on paid sick time, temporary disability, and family leave insurance. So that's all I'll share with you now. I will put my email in the chat if you're interested in having the department bring program experts to present on these topics, or if you're interested in having materials mailed to you. You don't have to remember all that we have. If you just share with me your need, I'm happy to kind of point you in the right direction. And yeah, that's it.
And thank you, Rebecca. And I know that you guys are always open to feedback, other ideas that folks might have about other materials or things like that. So thank you for making yourself so available, Rebecca, Holly, Jill, the whole team there. And also just thanks for all the work that you've done on developing these materials. So yeah, there's the information. Rebecca already put it in the chat, just other contact information over at the Department of Labor. So you can go to the next slide, Fatmata. I actually don't remember what it is, but I'm going to introduce Rebecca Log-Conroy, who is a doctoral candidate with the Rutgers School of Social Work and research associate with the Center for Women in Work. They're going to be releasing a new report on implementation of paid family leave in New Jersey, a promising work in progress. So I want to give her a minute just to tell us about what they have been working on. Rebecca, can you? Let's see.
Yep,
a different Rebecca,
sure.
Not Rebecca Glenn. There you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to be super quick. We're really excited about the work we did. We interviewed advocates, workers, employers, and the state administrators asking about family leave implementation in New Jersey and how things are going, how they understood family leave, and all of those pieces. But a couple of things that I just want to point out that was some of our findings, but they have to do with workplace culture and things like that, the culture of leave. One is that employees reported that they felt more supported by their employers when their employers had a very detailed information about the leave. Like, this is what happens on day one. This is how many weeks you get of TDI. This is how much you'll get paid. This is what happens when you transition to FLI, or if you're just doing FLI, if you're not giving birth, if you're just doing FLI, this is how many weeks this is, and this is, the transition period, and this is how much you will make, and, all of those kinds of things. But having a sort of detailed information, it made them feel supported in their workplace. So that was one big piece of workplace culture in terms of helping employees take leave. And then the other piece of workplace culture that we found when we were interviewing people was that there was a sense among the participants, and we've heard this throughout this hour and a half, right, that birthing parents, most often women, are supported in their leave taking, but non-birthing parents, most often men, face barriers when taking the leave. And even for things like caring for a sick child, mothers sometimes are supported more often than fathers in that kind of leave. And that there's a fear of retaliation and a workplace culture, both fellow employees and management, that doesn't view leave by men with the same level of support as leave by women. And sometimes it's obvious, like someone losing their job or someone not getting promotion, but sometimes it's subtle, like saying, oh, it's just vacation, or, oh, this person's not supporting his fellow workers because he's on leave. And so those are the kinds of things within workplaces that could be changed. And even when a policy on its face is gender neutral, sometimes when a workplace is still fairly gendered in the way that they view caregiving and caretaking, that becomes an issue. And then finally, just on the workplace culture piece, in terms of taking leave for things like caring for someone with cancer, not a parental leave, sometimes your benefits are connected to what you'd have to take leave for. So, your health benefits are connected to the person receiving care for cancer. And so you don't want to take the risk of potentially losing your job or losing a promotion and losing those benefits when you're taking leave. So that also has to do with the support that you feel from your workplace in terms of taking leave for that kind of care. So those are some of the top lines. We're excited about the rest of our results, and we're happy to talk about it another time too. So thank you.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much, Becky. I appreciate that. It's really exciting. This report is going to be really helpful for all of us, as we try to be informed about how we go about our work in the collaborative. And to that end, and so we'll be hearing more from you all about your report and thinking about how it can help us. So thank you for that. So before we close out, I just want to end with a pitch for joining the collaborative. Amanda, if you could share your screen. We're going to meet every other month or so. Our next meeting we're planning for December 1st, so a little bit more than every other month. And if you haven't filled out the join the collaborative form, it's in the chat. I don't know if we want to call ourselves NJ Pluck or not, but that's how we would abbreviate the New Jersey Paid Leave Outreach Collaborative. And we would love for you to fill that form out if you haven't already. You can provide some feedback, and also if you're interested in possibly helping us plan our next meeting, as well as just thinking about ways in which we can tackle this work and use some of the information that we've collected from these conversations in going about increasing awareness and understanding. So yeah, so there's the form. And we will follow up over email with a lot of these great, exciting links and information, and we'll keep the conversation going. And I also want to just make sure to say a big shout out to Scott for the time that he provided us in talking about, you know, his whole person workplace. So check it out. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you again. Take care.